Welcome back to Redlands Rundown. This is your podcast for college, career, and everything in between. We're excited to have James Tabor here with us today. Professor Tabor, as a lot of you know him. We're going to talk a little bit today about professors who changed everything for us. And we're just so glad that you joined us on campus today.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah. When Macy and I were talking about who should we have on campus who really made an impact in a lot of students' lives, I instantly was like, well, I know who made a big impact in my life and in my educational journey. I know I transferred over to USNO. I came back and I was like, I'm going to have a minor in history. Not necessarily because I love history, but because I loved your classes and I love that you kind of made it come to life. And so I guess just starting there, when you think about your path and how you got to teaching, how did you know it was the right path for you?
Well, honestly, I started out thinking I was going to become a dentist. And it took one semester of college chemistry, and I changed my major. Well, I didn't have a major at the time. I just changed my direction. And history was a class that I'd always enjoyed. Growing up, my parents, on summer vacations, they'd pack us, my brother and I, in a car, and we'd go to some battlefield or some museum. And so it's always been a part of my life, and I enjoyed it. So that's how I got involved in going into history.
Yeah. My dad and my brother are both really big history buffs. And we went to Mississippi one summer for vacation, and I remember going to visit.
Vicksburg, yes.
And I remember talking to you about it and hitting all these things. And I remember my dad saying, how did they ever find each other? You know, like this, just so up and down lonely. And I always think that's what kind of brings it to life. Is people like you and people like him who are able to actually put that story there with it. So do you have maybe something that you feel like students always remembered about your class? Because I know that one of the things I've always thought is just how engaging you were. And how did you make it feel alive for the students?
That's one of the hardest things to do, is to make a class, a topic, be relevant to the students. And that's one thing I tried to do, is how is this topic, how is this part of history relevant to their lives, and how it affected not only them, but had an impact later. It was challenging at times. It really was.
Yeah. Well, especially probably at today's age, when everyone is so obsessed with social media and on our phone all the time, it probably made it a little more difficult to bring that to life.
Luckily, they didn't have cell phones when I started.
You started right.
Yeah. But yeah, technology certainly changed things, in the classroom, the whole environment. And I as I say, I know I said this in probably just about every class. The first class was, I know I have a rough audience because hardly anybody will be a history major. And, maybe one or two. And I said my hope was not to convert you to history majors, but, see that history does have an impact on their lives. They may not notice it, not realize it right away, but later on in life, they'll hopefully realize it.
Yeah. I was always so impressed, and I think when I teach classes now, and I know I've talked with Professor Carter about this, we'll always talk about how you were such an impact to us, the way that you taught. And I think I try to take a lot of what you did in classroom and apply it when I'm teaching. But what would you say your teaching style is, and would you say it did evolve over the years?
When I first started, it was probably mostly lecture. Mm-hmm. And, as the semesters and years went by, I tried to do less lecture and more try to get discussion from the class. One class, it could be, full of discussion, a lot of depending on how much they've read coming into the class. And then, you may have the next class, the same topic, and that class, it's trying, pulling teeth. But it's hard to get, a discussion. But last thing, if you ever seen the movie Ferris Bueller, I didn't want to be that teacher that isn't anyone, anywhere in the character. I'd say that probably trying to add more to this much discussion and involving them, and then of course, as I've said before, making the subject relevant to it. Right?
What did you find the most rewarding about being in the classroom?
I'll just being around students. That was it. That was the other thing that attracted me to teaching in general was there was never a dull moment. There really wasn't. Even though I taught the same couple, 2 or 3 classes every semester, it was still always fun because the students were new. And then the students were everything, really.
Did you find a part of it challenging?
Oh, yeah.
The students?
Yeah. Yeah. I wanted to challenge the students. I heard a lot of students say, this class is so hard, I don't want to take that. And I want them, it had to be challenging. That's the way life is. You face challenges and they got to be able to adapt.
Yeah. Absolutely. My dad always told us, life doesn't owe you anything.
Yeah.
And I remember when I first enrolled in your class, I did talk to someone and they were like, his class is so incredibly challenging. Like, you better watch out. And it was a hard class, but it was enjoyable to me. Like, I was actually learning. I was in high school when I first did your class.
Oh, I know. And the thing I remember about you in class is there's about 4 of you that I think you all rode together, but you also studied together. You compared notes, and you may not have realized it then, but you were learning.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just whether you were driving to or from the campus, and probably talked at some time about the class and that interaction was important.
Yeah. And I think it was probably the first time in my life that I thought I'm actually learning something. High school, I think, for a lot of students isn't necessarily challenging a lot of the time. And for others, it can be. But, a lot of the curriculum that's there isn't necessarily things that you have to study for. It's a lot of stuff that you maybe already know. And it really was the first time in my life that I thought I'm applying myself to this and I'm being challenged by it. But it was so rewarding because I walked away being able to talk to someone about a historical fact or a figure that happened in history. Whereas in the past, it was like, well, I made an A, but I don't really know what to tell you that I learned there. And I really cherish that, and I still do. Speaking of historical events, if you could add one historical event or topic to every student's required curriculum, do you have one?
Gosh, that's a tough one. One topic that I hardly ever hardly ever got enough time to discuss. It was the 60s.
Yeah.
And I'd get close to, I get through maybe the Kennedy administration, but post Kennedy and Vietnam, talking about the Vietnam War, the change in the counterculture and that. It's part of the curriculum, but I just never got there, or rarely got there in a class. And so, one time I thought about teaching history backwards, starting with the 60s and then going back, but I thought, no, that's too confusing not only for the students, but me too.
Well, I remember, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I really think one of the things that you told us when we first started was you really didn't need us to know specific dates. Mm-hmm. You just wanted us to know time periods and
World War I.
Yes.
World War II.
Yes, and so you may have succeeded more than you know had you started with the 60s. Yeah. Do you have a favorite memory from your time teaching?
oh gosh, there are so many. Just seeing the students when you're in front of the classroom and you see a student, the light comes on, and you can see it in their facial expression, their eyes. That happened. I will say a lot because no, it did. But when that happens, that makes you realize, this is why I'm here.
Yeah. It's very rewarding. I feel like when you're finally able to get something across.
Yeah.
That's what, even when I was advising, that was kind of what I enjoyed about it, was seeing someone walk out of the room, just head a little bit higher, not as discouraged as they came in. And so I'm sure that's very powerful when you're up there in the front of class.
One of the things that I really think that was really important was to listen.
Yeah.
To listen to their students, whether it's as a group, as an individual, small groups, listen.
Yeah.
And try to learn from what they had to say.
Well, that actually leads us into our next question. Despite maybe your classes being a little more challenging, you really were one of the students' favorite professors. So how did you make that strong connection with them? Was there one thing that you always focused on doing? I know you just said
getting to know their names and then listening.
Yeah.
That was, and, when I did engage with them and not necessarily tell them what was right or wrong, but have them figure out the right thing to do.
Yeah. I remember in every one of your classes that I took, and it was a loss, that we would write down our name and something about us. And you would always remember. And it was different than an icebreaker, because I think during an icebreaker, it's a little bit weird because you're like, my name is Sydney and here's a weird fact about me. But for you did it like, let me know something about you that is important to you that maybe is going to affect something in this class. And I feel like you always took special detail of that.
Well, thanks. I tried to.
Grace. Do you maybe have a moment that you remember something that a student once said or did that really stuck with you who you're teaching? I knew you'd have a good story for this.
We were the late Bill Gordon, who taught government and also hit some history classes. He was one of my best friends, and we put together a class on the 60s. And the students, and there was usually had about 15, 20 students in this one particular class of students. They were really engaging, a lot of fun. And anyway, we were talking about Woodstock.
Yeah.
And the impact it had, and one of my students, and she's a volleyball player, and I won't say her name because but it's stuck. She goes, Woodstock, big whoop. I don't know why that struck me. It's so funny, but she were big whoop. And so every once in a while, I would, in a class, somebody would say something, I go, big whoops. That one phrase just tore me up.
That's so funny. It's funny the things that stick with you. I have a friend who we were watching a basketball game one time, and she so seriously said, if we want to win, we're going to have to put the ball in the hole and make it. And that, to this day, is something that my family and I will say, and if we want to win, here's what we're going to have to do.
Yeah.
What do you hope that your students would take away beyond just the course material?
Well, just an appreciation for our country's history. And, one of the things I know I said every first class was, I may get in trouble for this, but this country's history is not perfect.
Yeah.
It's made mistakes, and oftentimes they learn from these mistakes. And sometimes we're still making mistakes and that have continued on or started years and years ago. So, have appreciation for it, learn from its successes, but also learn from its failures.
I think that's a great lesson to take away because, like you said, it's not perfect, but that's one of the most important points of it.
And you oftentimes in real life, you learn more from your mistakes than your successes.
Yeah.
I know that sounds a little tried, but it's true. I really think it is.
It is. I tell students all the time, like if you walk away from something and you feel like it was a failure, you still learn something from it.
Oh, yeah.
And so what more could you want,
I know.
How do you want your students to remember you specifically? Or how do you hope they will remember you?
As someone who cared about them, somebody that listened to them, and was somebody that was fair.
Well, as one of your past students, I can say I feel all of those things. I know that some of my classmates that I shared your classes with feel the same way. So I think you did a great job on that. Shifting gears just a little bit. Remind me again, you retired in 2020, is that right? No, that was like your halfway retirement, I think, actually.
I think that's when I retired. The years had gone by. Yeah, I think that's about right.
Was it hard to step away, or did it feel like it was time?
It is time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I still enjoyed, and this is the thing about, I taught 44 years and about 30 here at Redlands. I could probably, in one hand, the days that I didn't want to come to work. I loved teaching. I really did. But, 2020, we had that pandemic going on, and I just felt it was time.
Yeah.
And I haven't regretted it. I taught a Western Sydney class online for 2 or 3 years, and then I thought, I'm ready.
I'm going to really retire this time.
Yeah. It's changed, what, I used to read, I've always read, but a lot, but history books.
Yeah.
And, the various topics and personalities and stuff. Since I've retired, I read a lot. I've only read 2 books that have dealt with history. I've been reading stuff that a lot of fun. Yeah.
Well, I think that's wonderful. Is there something that you miss the most about teaching?
Just the engagement with the students. Yeah, without question. And the people here at Redlands. I enjoyed talking to and seeing, the people I worked with.
Well, we did just walk the halls earlier, and it was like a local celebrity was with me. Every person that we came across was like, oh my gosh, Professor Tabor.
I don't come back often.
So it's more
Well, then, to go off to the school, I got other things I'm doing, check, which, some people ask me, what do you do in retirement? I don't know. I walk every morning about 4 miles. I read. My wife has always got something for me to do. And, she really has a list of stuff. And, I think I just got finished painting our dining room for the 5th time. Anyway, that's a whole different deal.
Is there something that worked? Oh, good. I'm glad to hear that. I know that retirement, I feel like a lot of the time goes one or two ways, where someone either really enjoys it or they really are itching to go back to work. Is there something that you don't miss about teaching?
Yeah, grading. The hours on grading. And I always thought it was really important that if a student turns in an assignment, that they get it back quickly. And not necessarily the next day, but certainly within less than a week.
Yeah.
And so it meant a lot of long hours of reading and correcting and the grade news.
Well, especially with history, Because that's, actual historical facts you have to get right.
Well, and I felt it was important to have written, whether it's essays or a short paper or something like that. And sometimes going through those could be a challenge.
Yeah. You said you taught for 44 years. Do you feel like teaching still finds its way into your life in unexpected ways?
Yeah, absolutely. I watch Jeopardy a lot. So I know that that answers. And conversations, books I read, I every day just comes in, teaching has an impact on me in some way or another.
If you could go back at the beginning of those 44 years and give yourself one piece of advice at the start of your career, what would it be?
Do something that you love.
Yeah.
And how I'm lucky I found a job that it really wasn't a job. It was something that I really enjoyed doing just about every day.
I think it makes it a lot easier to get up out of bed in the morning. I'll be looking forward to what you're going to every day.
Yeah.
Were there qualities that you saw in students that made you excited or hopeful when you walked into the classroom?
Can't think of anything.
That's okay.
Any qualities that can't think of anything right offhand.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think one of the things that always makes me excited is like when someone is engaged from the get-go. I'm teaching intro to speech right now. And so when I have students that are, which doesn't ever happen that students are excited to give a speech. But when I have students that are like, okay, yeah, I'll go. I am like, oh, okay, yeah, let's do this thing. And so I think probably for all of us as teachers, just that degree of you actually care, even if it is just a little.
That's I did care. It was sincere. Yeah. There was one thing didn't get a chance to do, and we Billboard and I think I mentioned we taught some special interest classes in the 1930s or 39 in particular, this 1960s classes, and Professor Scheimker had discussed before I left the possibility of doing the history and literature type special topics class, but didn't get a chance to do that. But you can really have a great history class just through literature. So, yeah, missed out on that.
Is there something that you wish more students knew while they were in school?
I wish they knew how important education was, period, in their lives. And I'm not just saying, whether it's a trade or, becoming a doctor or lawyer or whatever, just always learning.
Yeah.
You try to learn something new every day.
I know that a lot of us say in education, knowledge is one thing that no one can ever take from you. And I think that's something that I have really, really honed in on as I get older, is that the more I learn, the more I take in, and they're just more things that people can't take from me. It is the information that I hold on to and the education that I have. And like you said, whether that's a trade, whether it's college, whatever it might be.
Yeah. I that's one thing that since retiring I've tried to do is to, learn one thing every day. I haven't learned it yet today, but, my wife is, she decided when she retired about a year before I did, and she's learning French.
Oh, wow.
And I haven't gone there. I feel like I'm learning just by listening to her, but doing something like that, something that's maybe takes you out of your comfort zone.
Well, and you all travel so much that will benefit her well, and you'll also benefit from her. No way.
Yeah. Well, we've been to France twice, 3 times, And, each time she learns more and more, and she's able to interact more with people. And, it is how, well, even not only in France, but in Belgium, where they speak Flemish and the other half speak French. But, it's pretty.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Well, if you're okay with it, we're going to do a quick speed round. You're welcome to answer as fast as you like. So,
Okay.
Number 1, if you could teach one class completely unrelated to your field, what would it be?
Literature class, yeah.
If you could time travel to witness any event firsthand, which one?
1517, Martin Luther nailing the 95 Theses, the criticism of the church of Wittenberg, Germany. I'd have loved to have seen that, because that set off the Protestant Reformation, which is quite the revolution. Yeah.
One historical figure you'd have coffee with.
I Barack Obama. I think I'd love to talk with him. We have a lot of interest, in sports and, things outside of politics. And, I think that him and his wife, and both of them, I'd love to sit down and have a coffee or drink or whatever, cover with them.
Best historical movie.
Band of Brothers. Yeah.
Is there a worse historical movie?
Pearl Harbor.
I like that one was way faster than the best of them.
Pearl Harbor, yeah. Best thing about the movie was Kate Beckinsale. She, but so many historical in there.
Favorite class you've ever taught?
1960s class, yeah.
A piece of advice you found yourself giving over and over?
Be patient and listen.
One thing you wanted every student to learn beyond the curriculum?
How important history was. And, one of the things that I would have I run into a student that was in my class, and they would come back, or they, a couple semesters later, they were taking another class of something, and they would stop by and says, "Mr. Tabor, I saw this on TV, and I remembered us talking about in class." And so that was always a bit of a boost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. One word your students would use to describe you?
Challenging.
I always thought you were so funny.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
I love to hear.
That's the other reason I kind of felt it was time to retire. I would use references in class that were very pertinent when I started teaching. That then, as the years went by, I'd use this reference, and they'd go, "The heck is you talking about?" So, yeah.
I remember I would go home because you would tell stories about Walmart being like the evil empire.
Yeah.
And I would go home and I'd be like, "Dad, he feels the same way that you do."
Still haven't set foot in Walmart. It's been 30-some years, something. Yeah, it's been a long time. Seem to be doing well without my business, so.
I do think there's marketing. Most rewarding teaching moment.
Oh, man. Probably, and I know this may sound, our former president, Jack Bryan, always said, and I agree with him wholeheartedly, that watching those students get that diploma and, their associate's degree, that was, whether they were my student or other students, just watching them get that, that was a reward.
Yeah, for sure. And getting to see someone, like you said, even if they weren't in your classroom, but knowing that the work that they put in over the years to achieve that, for sure.
Yeah, these things change
They do.
for the best.
They'll have to check out the bathrooms. They've been renovated. They're really nice.
Oldman.
Well, I thank you again for coming in. I'm just really excited, and I'm excited for our students and our listeners and our faculty to listen to this and to get to hear a little bit about your journey and just the things that you've been doing and the things that you did while you were in the college.
Well, so I'll say I say thank you, and you're an example of another reason why I enjoy teaching is to see students like you come back here at Redlands and make it this a great institution. And keeping in touch with students years afterwards. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it has been. I tell people all the time, like, I always use Professor Tabor on my reference to the point that he was like, you don't have to ask me. Just throw me on there. And that relationship that I've made with you has helped me so much in my life and has been so important to me. And so I was just really, really excited that I got to do this with you and help people learn a little bit more about you that maybe didn't get to have you in the classroom. So, and to our listeners, make sure that you're tuning into Spotify, Apple Music, and everywhere that you get your podcast. And we'll see you next time. Thanks, guys.